Hello and welcome to Phoenix, Arizona. I am very far from home. I'm actually 9 hours, 9 time zones from my house. So my brain's a little bit scrambled right now, but you join me on the inside of the brand new BMW M2. I've just jumped into the driver's seat. We are heading out on the highways of Arizona up into the mountains to catch some twisties. But here's the cool news, they gave us a manual. So yes, I am having to use my right hand to change gears. So I thought I'd start talking to you now so you can see what it's like to get used to sitting on the left-hand side of the car and having the shifter on your right. And let me tell you, it's kind of weird. It's, you know, you've got muscle memory in your left arm. So when you go for third, you instinctively know where third is. But with the shifter on the right, fifth is, so first is nearer to you and fifth is away from you. So that's the first thing you got to get used to. But then also your right hand has just never done this before. It's like, I don't know, swapping your knife and fork and trying to eat. It's like, yeah, you look like, you know, like you just sort of arrived on this planet. But anyway, I am getting used to it and I'm very excited to tell you all about this car. Currently, we're stuck behind our second motorhome of this little stretch. We're not going very quickly, but we are heading into the mountains where hopefully I'll get to grips with this M2. So stick around. Dream, search, drive. Cars.co.za.
A lifetime guarantee on all repairs is a lifetime of sidestepping, tackling and modeling your speedos happily. Budget, the official insurer of good South Africans.
So let's get some basics out of the way. This is a rear-wheel drive manual front 6-cylinder turbo-engined BMW. It respects and harks back to some of the more classic BMWs that don't necessarily really exist anymore. I mean, the M3, the M4, those have become sort of different beasts. They're quite heavy. So this is the smallest M car you can buy, but it's not much smaller than the M3 or the M4. It's actually, the wheelbase is 110 mils shorter than an M4, so that's about that much. And the entire vehicle length is about 21 centimeters shorter than an M4, so that's about that much. I don't know, how big's 21 centimeters? So in terms of dimensions here, the M2 is not really that much different from an M4. However, I must say, when you're standing in front of one, the dimensions and the design do seem to shrink, and it does feel like a smaller car than the M4. The cabin also feels like a bit of a smaller car than the M4. The suspension has been largely carried over from the previous generation. There's also extra reinforcement at the rear, and of course a much wider track than the outgoing M2, and a much wider track than any other modern 2 series that you can drive as well. So the car does feel more squat. It feels like you've got more footprint on the road, and that definitely helps in giving you that confidence to push on a little bit. And yes, you will be able to order this from BMW South Africa as a manual. However, it will be special order. You won't necessarily be able to just walk into a showroom and walk out with a manual. So most M2s in South Africa, therefore, will almost certainly be with the 8-speed ZF box. And that's not a crime, really. It's a good box, and I can understand that in some ways, maybe that's what you prefer, especially if you're using the car as a daily. So no judgment from me, but just know that a manual M2 is a pretty wonderful thing. So under the bonnet, pretty much the same engine as the M3, M4, 3-litre twin turbo, and you're looking at outputs of 338 kilowatts here, 550 newtons, which is available pretty much right across the rev range, from as low down as about 2,500 RPM. And that means this car has 66 more kilowatts than the outgoing M2. Now it is quite a bit heavier, and we'll put the different weights on the screen so you can see how much the M2 has grown. But with that amount of extra power and torque, it's faster. So BMW have pretty much thrown the kitchen sink at the M2. You've got electronically controlled dampers. You've got an active differential, which can create a locking effect up to 100%. You've got things like a drift analyzer, if that takes your fancy and you feel like shredding your tires. So keeping you on the black stuff here are Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, 20-inch in the case of this particular model that I'm driving. And you do get the sense that the BMW techies out here have really inflated these tires to protect them, so you feel every little thing in the road. I think I just drove over an ant, and I could even tell you what species it is from what it felt like through the tires. You've got 550 Newton meters on tap, 0 to 100, 4.1 in the auto, 4.3 in the manual. The torque band is very wide. You've got from 2,500 all the way up to 5,500. You've got all your torque available. And peak torque is actually at 6,250 RPM, with the engine redlining at 7,200 RPM. I think the best way to maybe give you watching me doing this, a feel for this car is to actually bring my speed down, which also might help me not end up in jail, and sort of get a feel for the car between second, third and fourth gears. So, and my speedometer is in miles per hour, so I don't know, I'm not going to be able to do that maths on the fly. But let me get over this blind rise. Can I see where I'm going? Yes. All right, let's ring out second. Oh, you can feel that torque. That's a lot of torque in a car this size. Almost felt a bit there like the car went a little bit light at the rear when I rung out third there, and I hit that peak torque figure up in the 6,000s. And there was just that little moment where you thought, I don't think I have 100% traction right now. What I love about the way this car has been set up is they haven't tried to dial back some of the raw feel of it. So the gear knob itself, you can feel the drivetrain working through the transmission. You can actually feel it through your hand. It's a really nice feeling. The steering is maybe a bit dull because it is electronic, obviously, or electric steering rather, and so you don't really get the feedback that you used to get from hydraulic steering, but it is accurate, I must give it that. So interestingly, there's something called gear shift assistance in this car, which sort of rev matches for you on downshifts, but it also actually meters the way that the clutch engages with the flywheel. So you get this sort of speed measuring assistance when you're gearing down. You can turn that off. So let me go for a little downshift here, fourth into third. There's that throttle blip. That wasn't me. I can't heel and tow. I'm not Ashley Oldfield. So that was the car doing that. There's also 2 different levels of braking feel which you can choose from somewhere in the menus. But I'm just absolutely loving the experience of driving a modern, high-powered manual car. This is just a thing of the past. I mean, I know Toyota's just released a manual Supra, and all credit to them, but manuals are definitely dying out, that's for sure. And the thing is, dual clutch boxes have just got so good, and so have single clutch boxes with torque converters as well. I mean, they're brilliant. They're brilliant now too. Maybe not as visceral as the old dual clutch boxes were. You know, one thing I think I appreciate about BMW right now, as manufacturers just barrel towards an electric future, is that BMW are saying, no, EVs aren't the only solution. We're going to keep making great ICE cars. We're going to make them as efficient as possible. And we're going to make EVs, and we're going to make hybrids, and we're going to make hydrogen cars, And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that they are giving the consumer choice. And the thing is, imagine, put yourself in BMW's shoes. They've built a brand on visceral cars. That's their selling point, especially if the car has an M badge on it. It's not like Volvo where it's all about comfort and safety. Of course, these are very comfortable and very safe cars, but that's not really their USP. What I'm doing now is the USP. They want you to walk into a dealership, spend 1.4 million rand so that you can come out to a country road like this and enjoy yourself. That was a rock in the middle of the road. That's what M cars are for. And last night, the head of BMW M for the whole world was there. He spoke to us, Frank van Meel, and he had this graph, this timeline going all the way to 2030. And he's like, yeah, we're going to be making great combustion cars all the way to 2030. For me, I never really talk too much about the colors available on a car or the styling. I feel like you can get that from the visuals. But this time around, it's actually quite interesting, and I'll tell you why. So there are 5 colors available with the new M2, and 2 of them are specific to the M2. They were developed for this generation. One is Toronto Red, which I'm driving right now, and the other is Zandvoort Blue, which for me does not work on this car. It's a very matte color, and it sort of reduces and decreases the impact of the lines of the car, of the creases of the car, of the shoulders of the car, and it makes the car look a little bit visually weak. And I think when the M2 came out, there was a lot of sort of consternation online and a lot of social media chatter of people saying, oh, they haven't got the styling right. But I would suggest to you, wait until you see one in this Toronto Red. I think it'll change your opinion. My feeling about this M2 is that it is a wonderful mix of the best of BMW's past and the best of its current tech. I mean, I love the M4 for what it is. Don't love the price tag, and it's a bit heavy, but it is a very dynamic and interesting car to drive. This feels to me like it has a bit more of the spirit of BMW in it than the BMW M4. It's a bit purer, it's a bit more distilled. It's like everything the M brand stands for, sort of purified, concentrated into a slightly smaller package. You do get the feeling that this car, in the right circumstances, could be an absolute hooligan. But out here, when you need it to be a bit civilized and just a bit exciting, it can also do that for you as well. It does feel like this car has broader talents and broader usability than the previous M2. The previous M2 for me was a little bit wild. That short wheelbase sort of constantly made it feel like the back of the car wanted to overtake you. It was a little bit unnerving actually, whereas I don't get that feeling with this car. This car does feel more settled, maybe slightly less nimble and less agile, but definitely more user-friendly, I think, to the average motorist, to the average enthusiast, than the outgoing M2. You might be interested in this car's fuel consumption, but I can't help you there because it's in miles per gallon, which makes almost as much sense as Fahrenheit does, because an American gallon is not the same as a British gallon, and that was confusing to start with anyway. So yes, we are currently using some petrol to cover some distance. That's what I can do for you. Some of that noise doesn't feel entirely natural. I have a feeling it is coming through the speaker system, but it's good. It's a nice sound. You've got a great combination of engine noise and exhaust note. And it's like a 360 experience. The sound kind of comes at you from everywhere. And just sort of rolling on the throttle and letting those revs build. That sort of car, it is very responsive for a turbocharged engine. The power delivery is very linear. This is basically just the BMW formula brought right into the modern age. Everything about it is what you'd expect from a BMW. Engine at the front, 6 cylinders, power going to the rear through a 6-speed manual, linear power delivery, raspy engine note, great 50-50 balance, little bit of tail happy characteristics. It's pretty much every box ticked for a BMW M car. Yeah, the M2 has definitely grown up. This is a much more mature car, but it is also a much more capable car. And in my opinion, as an average driver, maybe somebody like Ashley Oldfield prefer the last one, and the fact that you had to really be on it when you were looking for the limits of that car. But for myself, just a driving enthusiast who wants to maybe enjoy their cars on the weekend and have a nice, interesting daily for during the week, this, I think, is a better car than the outgoing M2. Not only is Cars.co.za the best place to find your dream car, but it's also the easiest place to sell your current car. Check out the sell car section on our main website. Simply list your car's details and all of our dealers will take bids on your car. You just choose the highest price. Boom, your car's gone. On to your next one. Right, thanks very much for watching the video. Okay, I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm finished now.
Cars.co.za.
No matter how big or small your car is, you can still save $420 per month. Budget, the official insurer of good South Africans.